Hello everyone, Resident Keeper Faye here, popping in at the beginning this time because guess whose dead computer ate the audio for this episode? That's right, it's mine again. So this is another narrative episode, but I'm actually also here because I wanted to give everyone a heads up that this episode gets a little bit heavy. There's a lot of talk about the nature of being and how trauma and your experiences can kind of dictate who you are as a person and your experience. And I just wanted to give a warning for anyone who might not be down for that kind of talk. There is going to be a timestamp in the description if you would like to avoid that. Anyways, I hope you enjoy our second narrative episode. We begin again where we left off, leaving the Thanksgiving celebration. Anna is following close on Levi's heels and Alex not far behind. He catches up with Levi easily and begins their interrogation.
Hey, Levi, wait up. I was wondering if you had noticed any kind of a seismic activity? Like earthquakes? Just, little ones?
No, everything has been normal. Why on earth would that happen here?
Well, have you noticed anything unusual? Anything out of the ordinary that's occurred to you?
Well, I had a really bad headache yesterday. It was pretty odd, it just wouldn't go away. Suppose that was a bit weird.
That is weird. I had something similar, actually. It felt like pressure on my mind, and like my body too. Something like that, maybe?
Yes, I suppose that's similar.
You remember our trip to the pumpkin patch, right? Earlier this month?
Yes, that was a very nice time. Thank you again for coming with me. It was nice to finally go with someone.
Do you remember what we talked about at the pumpkin patch? Like, you remember how we chose the pumpkins? Carved them? You talked about the divine. Told me about your connection to him. You know, it was weird at first, but I've really come to admire your connection to him. How strong it is. It makes you stronger too. I sometimes wish I had something like that too, you know?
Something about Ananiel's words are getting to Levi, getting under his skin and sticking in his head. He isn't uncomfortable per se, but he feels like he should be.
You always talk about it like you know him. Like, personally. Like you talk to him. You feel him. It's honestly impressive, almost. I wanted to talk to you about this. Maybe you can remember a bit? Tell me about it? Your connection.
That ever-present feeling of pressure in Levi's head is back now. He can feel it, that he's close to something. And finally, he pushes back. Levi pushes back against what feels like a block in his mind, and all of a sudden memories are flooding through him. It feels like his fingertips are burning with something electric flowing through his veins. He remembers magic. Genuine, real magic. He remembers the feeling, the power, the connection, and he suddenly realizes how empty he feels. His mind is spinning as Alex finally joins them, interrupting his spiral. Alex is breathless and running to catch up, but they had only made it a block before the conversation stopped them in their tracks.
Something is wrong with Olive. She's up to something, being all kinds of suspicious and just weird. Something is up with that kid. Levi, are you good?
Yes, I think so. I understand. I'm fine. I'm good.
Good. Let's find her before she does something stupid.
It doesn't take long for them to convince Molly to give them Olive's address. Between the panicked look in Alex's eyes and them telling her that she and her family are in danger, she gives in, and they're on their way. Levi is in Alex's car, and Anna is following closely behind on his bike. The drive is short and quiet, and they're at the small, unassuming suburban home before they know it. Levi takes point on getting in, the pillar of the community that he is. Olive's mother answers the door. Oh, hello, everyone. Can I help you with something?
Yes, you can. We need to speak with Olive. It's of great importance.
It's late, so be quick, please. As they enter the home, Leslie heads into the living room at the noise of visitors and offers to get Olive. They've been listening in. Their mother is clearly unhappy with the situation and visibly impatient, arms crossed and foot tapping as Alex follows Leslie to Olive's room, Levi staying in the living room to placate her. They knock and wait and are met with silence. Leslie knocks again, more urgent and now concerned. Hey, Olive, come on. When they open the door after one last attempt at knocking, they find a messy and also empty room. The window is left cracked open just enough for small fingers to slip under the sill to open it, and also enough to let in a cold breeze. Fuck. She's good at getting out. Alex is in a rush as he heads back to the living room, more and more certain that something very, very bad is happening.
Where is she? She's not in her room. Where would she go?
She's not here? Leslie, do you? She didn't tell me, but I might know where she went.
We're going to look for her. It's okay.
We will find her, Mrs. Nelson. Don't worry. You just stay here.
Guys, let's go.
Listen, I'm coming with you guys. Trust me, you won't find her without me. The four of them are out the door before the supposed Miss Nelson can make any sort of protestation. Leslie is directing them from their position in the back seat. The turns are taking them down familiar roads, and the ride is tense. Leslie is tense. So something is, wrong, isn't it?
Yes, very. Do you remember something?
I trust you guys. More than I should. I know you've helped me before.
We did. You were in a lot of danger, and we were able to help you. You and Olive. I just don't remember specifically.
Is all of this real?
No.
Oh, okay. It's turn right up here. It's the park. They pull into a small and familiar driveway to park in the lot of the park where Alex first ran into Olive. They pile out of the car, happy to be out of the tense atmosphere. Leslie takes a moment to breathe, trying to process. This is usually where she goes to think. I'm gonna walk, find her, hopefully. As Leslie heads further into the park, our hunters hang back, wanting to stick together as Levi hesitates. He has a feeling that he can't quite explain. Something is pulling at him, urging him towards the park. Instinctually, he crouches to the ground, pressing his hand into the cold earth, feeling it, reaching out. For the first time in days, he reaches out to his magic, and he is flooded with the electric feeling of it. The feeling of magic and his connection. He stands, his body no longer his own, as the magic and this connection takes control. He stands tall, head held high, as a halo of golden light manifests around his head and begins dripping, falling down onto Levi's shoulders, draping him in a soft golden light that falls almost like silk. When Levi speaks, his voice is booming, projecting louder and farther than it has any right to, as the divine makes his proclamation.
Leviathan Bell is the hand of the divine. He is my chosen and mine alone. He will not be taken from me, and anyone who attempts to do so will face the full wrath of the Divine One and his sword.
The golden light sinks into Levi's skin as he comes back to himself, gasping air back into his lungs and feeling a clarity at last. An energy is working its way back into his body, and an almost uncomfortable warmth spreads down his spine and across his back as he is claimed, publicly and unquestionably. He belongs to the divine. Levi can feel the trail that Olive left. She was here, passing through.
I can feel her. She's at the factories.
It only takes a moment to round up Leslie, who doesn't question how they know where she is. Between the car and the bike, they are breaking several traffic laws, and unfortunately they don't go unnoticed this time. With the cops on Ananiel's tail, lights flashing, they work out a plan to get him out of this. When Ananiel pulls over, Levi quickly uses his newfound angel wings to get to him, and once more teleport them back to the factory where Levi can feel that Olive is. While not communicated explicitly, Alex knows where she is, and takes himself and Leslie to the factory where they fought the vampires. The factory where Levi died for the first time. It takes some time for Alex to reach them, but Levi and Ananiel spot Olive first. She's bundled up to fight against the cold and crouched down, leaning against the side of the broken-down factory building. When she spots them and knows that they see her, she stands and faces them.
Olive! Oh, thank goodness. Olive, are you okay? What's wrong?
Levi reaches out for her, comforting, but she flinches away, stepping back and away from him. Nothing was wrong, Levi, don't you get it? Everything was fine until you three decided to ruin it.
What are you talking about, Olive? We won't try to ruin anything, I promise. We just want to know what's going on.
I am doing what's best for everyone, Levi. It's better this way, why can't you see that? In a fit of anger, she steps forward, lashing out, but with a raised hand Levi stops her, holding her still with his magic. She struggles, but there isn't anything she can do to fight this. This is the scene that Alex arrives to. Car skidding to a halt on the broken gravelly road. He jumps out of it, telling Leslie to stay, and runs into the scene. Olive has tears in her eyes as she continues to fight against the force holding her still.
Olive, Jesus, kid! What do you think you're doing? What did you do?
I fixed things! I fixed everything! Why don't you get that?
You think this is fixing things? Making everyone forget what's happened suddenly makes everything better? Kid, that's not how this works.
Then why did it work? I made things better. You were all happy. Why isn't that enough?
You made me forget Shark. Do you think that made me happy?
You wouldn't have to fight anymore, Ananiel. Don't you want that? You can't convince me that it wasn't better. Easier, please. Just, why can't you be happy? Why can't we all be happy? Levi, you have friends. People close to you. A family. You got a family. And Alex, I saw how you looked the day before, okay? You, for once, looked like you weren't dying of malnutrition and sleep deprivation. You looked happy. When's the last time you looked happy?
Olive, that man died back in grad school, and I did not enjoy having him resurrected to be paraded around in front of the people I love.
Your husband did. Your kids did.
Don't you ever fucking speak for them! You are a teenager, and you do not understand the full scope of a complicated relationship. And I will forgive you, but I will not listen to that shit come out of your mouth about what my husband feels about me.
I was trying to fix things, and it fucking worked.
Did it fucking work, Olive? Hugo doesn't fucking exist. Ananiel forgot his friend existed. Levi was cut off from the God that chose him, that is bound to him, that has raised him up and given him a duty to protect this town. That doesn't mean nothing. That means something to us, to the people we are, and you can't just take that away because you think it'd be better if we didn't have trauma. Okay? I get it. It fucking sucks. You think I like waking up at 3 a.m, shaking and crying and drinking a keg of coffee just so I don't fall asleep again and have another fucking nightmare? No, I don't like it. But this is my life and I live with it. And I'm not going to regret the people I have helped save, the people I have helped protect, the things that I have patterned back from this dimension because it is my fucking home. And I would rather die young than see it fall to pieces and watch my husband get eaten by a fucking hell's time? Then watch my students get their brains sucked out from some neighboring dimension because it feels like fucking with us. Because we're little puppets to them. We're not fucking puppets. I'm not his fucking puppet. I'm a fucking person with a chronic condition, and I'm fucking choosing to live this way. This is my life, and it's mine, not anyone else's.
You all aren't going to stop, are you?
Olive, Alex is right. This isn't right. This isn't real. Nothing good will come of this.
We are fixing this, Olive, and you are going to tell us what we need to know to do that.
Olive seems to almost deflate as her struggling finally stops. She closes her eyes for a moment, and as she stops fighting them, Levi releases her from his magical hold to fall to her knees, a crumpled form sitting on the cold ground. I made a deal.
Details, Olive. What demon did you make a deal with?
It was a dream. That's how she reached me. She said she would make everything normal, make everyone happy, give everyone what they needed for the rest of our lives. The only thing I had to do was just keep you three from ruining it, and I broke my end of the deal. I failed.
And what else? What did you give her?
She asked me to bring Hugo. Bring them here, that's all. I brought them, and then I left.
Shit. Fucking hell. God damn it.
Olive stays where she is on the ground as Alex makes some phone calls. First to Mabel for her to help, not explaining everything, but enough. And then to Nathan, telling him to keep the kids close, stay inside, and stay safe. When that is finished, he finally approaches Olive. She doesn't look up at him, but instead holds out the string bag that's been clutched tightly in her hand, finally letting go when Alex takes it. She doesn't look at him as she stands while he opens the bag. Inside is a small pickle jar with a duct tape label on its side that reads, "Dogman inside. Do not break."
Seriously? This was your plan?
It's not like I could stop you by myself.
Kid, just go wait in the car with Leslie.
She can't bring herself to look at him as she walks to the car, obedient now. All the fight that was in her has been drained. Leslie steps out of the car to catch her as she collapses into their arms, and the hunters begin to make a plan. They're familiar with the warehouse at least, but unsure of what lies inside, waiting for them. They know that the only plan whatever this entity had must have had more of a backup plan than a 15-year-old girl to hold them off. But they now know that there's a victim inside, someone who might still be alive, so they rush in. Levi kicks down the door and feels a ripple of magic in the air in response, an alert. With their presence now known, Levi reaches out to feel for anything that might be here, and senses an overwhelming presence further into the building. Something big, and something very dangerous.
Something is here. We all should be very careful.
The darkness inside of the building is oppressive, and Ananil shakes the small jar containing Shark to summon her. Her blue glow begins to manifest, casting the room around them in a soft blue light, illuminating it as they proceed. The further they get into the building, a competing light makes itself known. A sickly purple glow, growing in intensity as they press on. They reach a doorway and hesitate. The light's source is inside, and Shark asks them to wait.
Whoever she is, she's watching. She knows we're here. What concerns me is that she doesn't seem upset about it. She's excited, Ananil.
Once again, Levi reaches out to the divine, and this time his prayers are answered. The divine manifests as he feels warm hands on his shoulders.
We need information. Just anything to go off of. Anything you know that might help us.
Levi speaks the question aloud, and, oddly, Ananil hears the response as well. There is an entity here, a creature. You may call it a demon, but I know her as the Exile. She was banished from this world. I banished her, bound her to a different plane, but she has always been persistent. She isn't here in your world yet. She's beyond the door that lies in that room. As the divine dematerializes from around Levi, the warmth once again spreads across his back, and he feels resolute in the knowledge of what must be done. They enter the room, crossing the stain of Levi's old blood on the floor, and see the door. It's old, weathered, wooden, heavy, and hanging open. Inside of it lies a flat, black substance blocking any view of what lies beyond it. Like the portal that they had closed in the broadcast station, it is the source of the sickly purple light that now drowns out Shark's radiant blue glow. As a small test, Alex tosses the mug he had shoved in his pocket into the door, and the three watch it disappear in an instant as it passes the threshold, simply disappearing into the darkness beyond.
We can do this. Right?
I think we have to.
We're doing it together, and we'll be fine. We haven't failed yet, and I don't plan to now.
Leviathan and Ananiel pass through the door first. It's cold, and they experience a sudden nauseating sense of vertigo. For a moment there's only the cold blackness surrounding them, pressing in on them, and then they step out onto the other side, and surprisingly, their surroundings are familiar. They stand in Levi's church, behind what would be the pulpit if it weren't crushed and scattered across the floor in front of them. The door they stepped out of, on this side, is the same one that leads to the basement in Levi's church. The tapestry that would hide it under normal circumstances is shredded halfway up. The scraps of the weathered fabric form a carpet underneath their feet. They take in the surroundings as Alex passes through the door. They're in the church, but it seems to be reversed, a mirror image almost, and this one seems old, rotten, and ravaged. There are holes in the roof, and they can see glimpses of a dark and starless sky. Everything around them is in disarray, as though something tore through it, destroying everything in sight. The door behind them remains open, the portal looking much the same on this side as it did theirs, and there is some relief that they aren't trapped here. Not yet, anyway. As Alex gains his bearings, his theorizing begins.
I've been thinking, if this exile is as powerful as everyone thinks she is, as much as she seems to be, it's like divine levels, right? They've got to be connected somehow. You said he's the one who banished her? Like he's Bahamut and she's Tiamat kind of thing?
It certainly seems like they know each other, at the very least. Shark, do you have any insight? You've been quiet.
I don't understand what this place is.
Ananiel can feel their connection more strongly than he ever has before, almost see it, like he could almost reach out and touch it. As he calls to her and she focuses on him, they connect. He begins to feel her, feel through her and what she's experiencing, like seeing through her eyes. She's more real here, more physical than she is in his world, and that's because this is, at least partly, her home, or at least it used to be. He can feel her emotions, the fear and the sense of familiarity, and while she doesn't speak, he begins to understand. This is a remnant of her home, a whisper of what it used to be, and there is a deep, aching sense of mourning, a sorrow that reverberates in his bones. Her home wasn't destroyed in the invasion like they thought it was. It's still here, but the exile took it over when she forced her way in, merging it with the wasteland that her realm was, and infecting Shark's. Everything feels wrong now, and Ananiel begins to feel the overwhelming sense that they are being watched. The hair on the back of his neck stands on end as he is overcome by the feeling that something is coming, a threat, impending and foreboding.
Shark, have you had experience with this before?
I've heard rumors, more like legends from my master. Tales of a world devourer, something that wrought destruction on anything it touched, a near unstoppable force. I thought they were simply stories, like your boogeyman. I was wrong.
Levi steps forward, slowly making his way towards the center of the church, taking in the scene around him. The church, his church, in such a state. The sharp stab of anger emboldens him.
Exile, I am here to speak with you.
His voice echoes, and for a moment there's silence. The air itself seems to shudder as there's a loud boom of something heavy impacting with the ground, a force strong enough to make the walls tremble, sending dust cascading down onto them. There's another moment of silence before another boom resonates, this time closer. Footsteps. Something large is coming, and quickly, one enormous step after another. The trio form themselves into a defensive stance, Levi readying a shielding spell, Alex pulling out his pistol, and Ananil clutching the jar as Shark manifests in her true form, placing herself over them protectively, a small blue thread connecting her to the jar. Well, you certainly took your time. As the footsteps come to a stop in front of the church, the large front doors swing open, and Hugo steps through. Their motions are jagged, lurching forwards, almost stumbling, awkward and uncoordinated. They don't look good. Their face is streaked in a black ichor, and their eyes are lifelessly staring ahead of them. Stains of blood cover their clothes, and they stop a few feet into the church. The only thing behind them through the doors is darkness. Without thinking, Levi runs to them, throwing his arms around them and pulling Hugo into a tight embrace, and Alex isn't far behind. The joy that Levi feels to see Hugo alive and, well, at least moving, is cut short. Hugo doesn't hug him back, and Ananil and Alex watch a grin spread across their face as a black spike is shoved through Levi's back with a splatter of blood, breaking the embrace as he is forced away from Hugo. Their head tilts to the side, still grinning, the black spike pushing out of their chests, skewering Levi and almost lifting him off of his feet. You're so naive, aren't you? Bad choice, Divine. Now it's Ananil's turn to rush towards them, Alex hesitating in slight shock. The voice is coming from Hugo, but it isn't theirs.
Levi! Shark, get him away from them!
Shark rushes forward to grab Levi, who screams as he's pulled off the spike. She is as gentle as she can be, given the circumstance, but that isn't much. You didn't really think it would be that easy, did you? Or are you all that stupid?
Shark, keep him safe!
Ananil, you can't!
Just listen to me, just do it!
Ananil is rushing towards Hugo, a rage building in his chest as Alex takes a step backwards. This isn't Hugo, and there has to be something that he can do. He's racking his brain for something to do, going through the mental checklist of the blood magic that he knows, but it's all too risky. He would take too much time, put him in more danger than it's worth. He doesn't know much, but he knows what kind of person the exile is. What he can do is hit her where it hurts, her ego. She's playing with them, clearly thinking that they don't stand a chance, and maybe they don't, but he can use that against her. It seems she can't manifest in their world, so all he has to do is get them all back there in one piece. With Shark still standing over him, Levi slowly raises himself onto one knee, catching his breath as well as he can with only one functional lung and pulling out his blessed dagger. The pain of it sinking into his leg is hardly registering next to the pain in his chest, and slowly the warm magic spreads, his second lung inflating and stitching itself back together as he finally stands to his feet. So you're gonna make this interesting. I'm very, very glad.
Why, Hugo?
What, did you need to go for the easiest target? Are the people too difficult for you to manage?
Hugo grimaces at the jab as they hold up a hand to summon another spike, thrusting it towards Levi, where it glances off the shield he summons. It splinters the shield, but Levi is left mostly unharmed. The strike against it is what hurts him, his magic now more connected to his body than it ever used to be. He can feel it, like an extension of his own limbs. As Hugo advances further into the church, the darkness behind them advances as well, almost oozing through the doors, spreading along the floor, encroaching towards them. Alex moves to place himself behind Hugo, between them and the darkness that's undoubtedly the exile, and Levi once again uses his magic to grab Hugo, holding them in place. Shark and Ananiel are both on the move, moving in tandem to surround Hugo. Alex is focusing on the exile, the darkness that he's pretty sure is part of her body, and takes a swing. Almost surprisingly, the knife sinks into it. She's solid, has a form here, and she reacts. Part of her writhes back in pain while another tendril strikes out at him, the force throwing Alex into a wall and away from her. It worked. If the walls of the church trembling as she bellows in pain is anything to go off of, he pissed her off. The dark form surges forward, enveloping Hugo in a cocoon of black goo, and as it retracts, Hugo goes with it. Before the substance is fully out of the church, a tendril wraps itself around Alex's ankle, dragging him along with it.
I'll fight fuckface. You guys get Hugo.
If you want to be involved so badly, fine. Let's make this a real fight.
Alex's last action before he's dragged out of the door is to swing the string bag, slamming it into the ground and shattering the jar inside. The room is filled with the scent of vinegar and dill as Alex's mind is overcome with a pressure as the spirit of the dogman cements itself into him, becoming a part of him. The spirit is activated by anger, and, well, Alex is already filled with an almost unfathomable rage. A deep snarling growl fills his mind and tears its way out of his throat as he is pulled out of the church. And the next thing he's conscious of is the feeling of his bones breaking and reshaping themselves as he is fully possessed, shifting into the form of the dogman.
I'm done now. Sorry for the volume.
No, you're good. You're good. That was great.